Darkflower poked her head into the medicine den, spotting Mint Cloud curled up in one of the nests. She had heard from Patchson that he hadn't been feeling completely well, and seeing him now, the dark brown tabby certainly looked miserable. But, knowing him as well as she did, he seemed more distracted rather than in pain. Still, she kept up her chipper attitude as she approached.
"You look awfully down on your luck,"
she commented, padding up to him.
"Is something wrong?" "What? Oh, no. It's just my stomach, you know? It's been giving me trouble and all, so,
Darkflower fixed him with the most unimpressed stare she could manage. She wasn't entirely sure how successful she was, but Mint Cloud trailed off, so she spoke.
"Mint Cloud, I've known you for a while, so let me just tell you, you're not really a good liar." Oh.
He looked away awkwardly.
"Look, it's nothing, alright? I don't want you to worry about it." "But it's clearly upsetting you,"
Darkflower meowed.
"Look, you don't have to tell me, but I'm still going to worry about you, alright? Maybe there's not much I can do, but you were there for me when the two legs took my claws, so I want to be there for you."
She shuffled her paws beneath herself as she spoke, gathering her courage to continue along this trail of thought.
"I know I'm not the brightest cat in the clan, or the best fighter or hunter or whatever you need, but I want to try to help anyway, because, well, I love you."
She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for Mint Cloud to respond. He was silent for a moment, and then he started laughing. Darkflower's eyes flew open, and she floundered to find her courage to speak again when Mint Cloud spoke up.
"Do you know how long I've been waiting to tell you the same thing?"
He meowed.
"I just couldn't find the right time, or stuff came up or something, but you..."
He shook his head and purred.
"I love you too, Darkflower. I really, really do."
Darkflower sighed in relief and leaned forward to nuzzle him.
"Is that what had you so worked up?" Oh, yeah. Totally."
It was another lie, Darkflower could tell, but she let the issue drop for now. If he didn't want to tell her now, that was fine. She didn't want to ruin this moment. For now, this was enough. Patchson shivered as the chill night air of leaf fall settled over the grasslands. He'd been running himself ragged, trying to gather as many herbs as he could before Leaf Bear, and trying to figure out how to replace the herbs he needed for Mint Cloud. And speaking of Mint Cloud, he'd been noticing the tensions between him and Finchdapple were beginning to rise recently. Sure, they had never quite gotten along, but Patchson hadn't thought it was too much of an issue until he heard Finchdapple raising his voice as Patchson had walked away from them before. He hadn't been quite able to make out the words, and surely they'd be able to figure it out themselves. But no. Now Mint Cloud seemed almost fearful of the older Tom. Then there was the time when Snailfang had gotten into some sort of argument with Finchdapple, despite how the two had been starting to become friends, and his increasing arguments with Foxspring were starting to reach troubling levels. Patchson respected the former deputy, he really did, but that could only go so far before something had to change. If he brought it up with Blossom Star, well, she was leader. Surely she'd have some ideas. "And you're sure of this?" Blossom Star meowed. "Do you really think Finchdapple is this much of a problem?" "I don't know if problem's the right word, but yeah." Patchson nodded. "I think you might need to, I don't know, talk to him? Give him a warning or something. Either way, him acting like this is going to be a real problem at some point." The tortoiseshell leader sighed, turning her head out towards the rest of the camp. "Do you really think they'll do any good?" That wasn't at all the answer Patchson had been hoping for. "Huh?" "I mean, look." Blossom Star didn't meet her brother's eyes as she spoke, her voice unusually hoarse. "I get what you're saying, I do. But what good will talking to him do?" "What good will? You're the leader! Your word is the most important of any cats in the clan!" "I'm the youngest cat in the clan, barring Sparrowkit, and you, of course. I have no idea what I'm doing here." Blossom Star dug her claws into the ground anxiously as she spoke. "Yeah, sure. Maybe Finchdapple's got some issues, but he's more experienced than me. Maybe he's even got a reason for everything. Who knows?" Patchson growled upon hearing his sister's tirade. Are you hearing yourself? If anything, that's exactly why you should be talking." The medicine cat trailed off as Blossom Star broke into a coughing fit. How are you feeling?
I'm fine. It's nothing, really.
Still, Blossom Star refused to meet her brother's eyes. That didn't sound like nothing, he meowed, his frown deepening. How long has this been going on?
Not long.
Blossom Star? Patchthumb planted himself directly in his leader's line of sight. How long have you been sick?
Honest, not too long. I didn't want you to worry.
Yeah, well now, you definitely failed at that. I'm more worried now than I was before. He lashed his tail and turned towards the medicine den. We'll have to talk later. I need to make sure I have what I need to heal you, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Creek Spirit yowled in pain as the snake bit down on their paw. They hastily jerked their paw away, and the scaly serpent took the opportunity to escape. Creek Spirit had hoped that after their previous hunting success, bringing back something so bright and colorful would be a breeze. Plus, the scales shimmered in the light, reminding them of the fish they used to catch quite often. Now, however, they were regretting everything, as their paw began to throb dully. They were going to have to see Patchthumb about this. Snailfang really wasn't sure how it had finally come to this. One moment, he was trying to find Mint Cloud to talk to him about how things went with Darkflower. The scrawny Tom had been looking pretty happy with her, last he'd seen. But then Snailfang rounded the corner and, well, there was Mint Cloud, being backed up towards the camp entrance by Finchstapple, whose back was turned to Snailfang. Nearby, Snailfang could see his kit, Sparrowkit, watching with wide eyes. He wanted to call out, whether to alert Sparrowkit, Mint Cloud, or Finchstapple to his presence, he didn't know. But something kept him quiet. He was barely able to hear the low tones of Finchstapple's voice, but whatever he was saying, he couldn't make it out. Whatever it was, Mint Cloud looked utterly terrified. He turned to try and run, but Finchstapple launched himself at the smaller Tom. Claws glinted in the sunlight, and the yowls and screeches of two fighting cats filled the camp, as the two struggled against each other. Finchstapple appeared to have the upper hand, with Mint Cloud on his back struggling to break free. For a moment, they rolled dangerously close to Sparrowkit's hiding place. Parental instinct took over, and Snailfang brushed to bundle his kid away from the fight. Little Sparrowkit looked up at their father with wide eyes.
What are they doing? Why is Finchstapple trying to hurt Mint Cloud?
I don't know, Snailfang stammered. Stay here. I'm gonna go check it out. He gave Sparrowkit a quick lick before returning to the scene of the fight. Both of the cats were injured and bleeding, but Mint Cloud had managed to free himself and pinned Finchstapple on his side, just as the bushes that formed the camp entrance began to rustle. Blossom Star emerged into the camp, closely followed by most of the rest of the clan. She took in the scene before her with wide eyes. What in StarClan's name is going on here? Immediately, Mint Cloud and Finchstapple broke apart. The lighter-colored Tom quickly schooled his furious expression into something more grave and serious. Blossom Star, I have had my suspicions for a while, but now I can confirm that Mint Cloud has been planning to betray you. Snailfang felt like he'd been frozen in place as a shocked murmur rippled through the gathered cats. Mint Cloud, a traitor? Could it be true? Finchstapple, for his part, nodded solemnly. I had intended to bring this to your attention for some time, but Mint Cloud realized what I knew and attempted to kill me while the camp was empty. It was only your timely arrival that saved my life. He bowed his head in a show of respect, as the other cats all began to whisper, Finchstapple's words filling them with a mixture of anger, fear, and mistrust.
No, Mint Cloud would never do
Why
that.
else would they be
Any of us
inviting?
really know Mint Cloud that well?
Snailfang found anger rising within himself from Finchstapple's words, but for a very different reason. Before he even knew what he was doing, he stepped forward and spoke above the clamor. Actually, Blossom Star, I saw everything that happened. Blossom Star, who'd been frozen in place herself, seemed to shake herself out of whatever stupor she'd been in and raised her tail to silence the other cats. What exactly did you see, Snailfang? Snailfang swallowed and glanced back at the two cats he'd called his friends before. Mint Cloud crouched low to the ground, nervous and submissive. Finchstapple with a furious, threatening glare. I was just trying to find and talk to Mint Cloud, but I saw him with Finchstapple. Finch was talking, but I couldn't hear him. I don't know what he said, but then Mint Cloud tried to run, and Finch attacked him, not the other way around. Another shocked murmur rose through the cats. Blossom Star turned to look from a grim-faced Patchson to a horrified Fox Spring, and then back towards the other cats before she sighed. All right, I think I've heard enough. Fox Spring, come with me. I need to speak with you. Patchson, you take all the sick and injured cats into your den to be treated. We will address this later. Go now, everyone. As the cats all began to separate, Finch leaned close to Snailfang as he was led away. You really should have kept your mouth shut. You don't want to share Froststar's fate, do you? What? His words were like icy claws that gripped onto Snailfang's heart, but Finchtapple had already brushed past. Within the stone clearing that Briar Clan called home, Vixenstar sat outside the medicine den, her tail twitching anxiously as she waited for Clay to emerge with any news. Leafall and the chill that it brought had hit the clan hard, and what started as a mild cough in one cat had begun to spread and worsen into white cough and even green cough. Clay had been doing everything he could to try and heal the others, and had been mostly successful. Yet, despite his best efforts, Vineclaw had succumbed to the sickness and passed away. Duckfeather had withdrawn from most of the cats in the clan following their mother's death, wandering away from the territory for long periods of time, and coming back with a scent of other cats on them. It had taken a stern talking to from Clay, of all cats, and for Duckfeather himself to fall sick, for them to stop wandering away. Meanwhile, Mousekit had begun to grow more frustrated, lashing out at other cats in the clan. What had once been petty kithood rivalries had turned into bitter hatred and enmity, and truthfully, Vixenstar wasn't so sure how they would fit into the clan's dynamic. She shook her head to dislodge that particular train of thought. Whatever Mousekit was going through, they would outgrow it. Now the most important thing was making sure the clan was well cared for. If Clay was too overwhelmed caring for all the sick cats, she'd go out and gather more herbs herself. Surely Red Valerian wouldn't be that hard to find, even in Leafall. Duckfeather sat awake in the overcrowded medicine den, the occasional cough breaking the otherwise silent night. By now, nearly everyone had been treated, but only time would tell if they were to make a full recovery. If only the same could have been said for Vineclaw. Duckfeather sighed, resting their head on their paws. Once again, thoughts of their mothers had been keeping them awake. At least they'd been there for Vineclaw when she passed, but who even knew what had happened to Froststar? Someone shifted in one of the nearby nests, and Duckfeather turned their head to see little Sandkit gasp awake before darting to their parents' side. Is everything alright? Asked Duckfeather. You look scared.
I had a bad dream,
Sandkit meowed, burying their face against Duckfeather's side.
Everything was dark, and I couldn't breathe, and they still couldn't breathe, and then it got even darker, and they woke up.
Duckfeather put a paw around their kit. That does sound scary, but you're safe, alright? You sleep next to me tonight. I'll protect you.
Okay.
The tawny-colored kit nestled up against Duckfeather's side, their breathing beginning to even out. Duckfeather licked the fur on their kit's head, curling around them. Maybe their own parents were out of the picture, but they could at least try to be there for their own kits. The cats of Briar Clan all gathered beneath the tall rock where Vixenstar sat, the sick cats keeping a short distance away, while Eaglekit and Lightkit sat near the front. While this clan gathering was more subdued than any in the past, there was still an air of excitement that hadn't been felt within the clan for quite a long time. As the queens hushed their squealing, excited kids, Vixenstar spoke, and the gathered cats quieted. Briar Clan has faced many hardships this Leafall, she began, her voice ringing clear and solemn. We have lost cats dear to the clan, and sickness threatens to tear down what we have worked so hard to build. And yet, we have persevered. We are recovering and growing stronger day by day. And now, it is time to add to that strength by training 2 new warriors. And how better to do that than to make the first apprentices of Briar Clan? She gazed down at the 2 young cats, whose paws almost seemed to tremble with anticipation. With a purr, she continued. Eaglekit, Lightkit, It is time for you both to be apprenticed. From this day on, until you receive your warrior names, you shall be known as Eaglepaw and Lightpaw.
Lightpaw!
The gathered cats began to cheer as the new apprentices proudly held their heads high. After a few moments of this, Vixen Star raised her tail for silence. Tidestorm, according to the warrior code, you technically should have received an apprentice before you were made deputy. However, due to the circumstances of BriarClan's founding, we'll let that slide. Her eyes twinkled in amusement as they met those of her mate. Once you have fully recovered from your illness, you will be Eaglepaw's mentor. I trust that you'll pass your knowledge on to him.
Of course, Vixen Star.
Tidestorm purred proudly and caught Eaglepaw's eye.
It'd be my pleasure. I take it you'll take over training him in my stead?
Certainly, Tidestorm. With a purr, Vixen Star then turned to the young calico sitting beneath her. In the meantime, Lightpaw, I will be your mentor. I have a lot to teach you, so I hope you're a quick learner. She leapt down from the tall rock and strode forward to touch noses with Lightpaw, who could barely contain her excitement. She was going to be trained by the leader! What an honor! Next to her, Eaglepaw was practically bouncing on his feet. What are we gonna do first? Are we gonna learn to fight? Are we gonna learn some battle moves? Will we be fighting Sun Clan? No fighting today, I think, Vixen Star meowed, shaking her head. Today, I'm going to need help from both of you to be doing something very important. We're going to gather more herbs for Clay. And, she added as the apprentices seemed to deflate, we're going to patrol more of the territory while we're at it. I hope you enjoy that. Eaglepaw watched with narrowed eyes as his sister stalked effortlessly through the underbrush, Vixen Star already praising her for doing so well. I can do that too, he grumbled to himself. Sure, maybe Vixen Star would be giving Lightpaw priority since she was her own apprentice, but that didn't mean he couldn't be just as good. A rustling in the bushes caught his attention, and his ears swiveled in the direction of the sound. That had to be prey, right? Or something good at least. With one last glance back at Lightpaw, Eaglepaw crouched low to the ground and tried to mimic her movement. He crept slowly forwards, trying carefully as he could to stay low to the ground, though his tail and belly brushed the forest floor, stirring up the leaves. A loud squawking and the flapping of wings caught Eaglepaw off guard, and he reared back with a yowl of surprise just as a crow flew out of the bush, cawing in his face before flying away, its alarm cry ringing through the forest. Eaglepaw teetered on his hind legs, trying to regain his balance, but one of his paws got caught in the root and he fell over backwards.
Eaglepaw!
The tortoiseshell and white Tom shook his head and looked up to see Vixen Star and Lightpaw running in his direction. Oh, perfect. This is just what he needed. I'm fine, he grumbled. I just have a sore paw is all. Can you walk on it? Vixen Star asked. Eaglepaw put his paws beneath himself and stood, before a sort of sharp soreness shot up the leg he twisted, and he lifted it off the ground. I don't have to use that leg, he meowed. It's fine. No, it's not. Vixen Star sighed, mumbling something on her breath that sounded oddly like, Petal Spots is going to kill me, before she shook herself. Maybe going so far from the territory with 2 untrained apprentices was a bad idea. Come on, we're going home. We weren't able to find any red valerian, but I hope this helps, Vixen Star meowed, sitting the herbs she had gathered on the forest floor in front of Clay.
Oh, that's fine.
Clay sifted through the pile with a paw, looking over the leader's findings.
Bringing back something is better than nothing at all. We never know what could happen, so I'd like to be prepared. This is nice.
Vixen Star sighed in relief. Well, that's good, though I was thinking perhaps I should... She trailed off as she noticed Clay's attention was focused elsewhere, and she turned to see the lithe form of Sun Clan's deputy slipping through the underbrush. Foxspring! Vixen Star called to the reddish-brown she-cat. This is a surprise. Is this a friendly late-night visitation, or should I be concerned about any other lurking warriors in the shadows? It's all right. I was sent with a message. Foxspring padded up to the Briar Clan cats, holding herself in as non-threatening of a manner as possible, while still maintaining her pride. Clay, Patchson has asked if you would be willing to meet with him at the Moonspring sometime soon. He wants to bring back the tradition of medicine cats meeting to commune with StarClan.
At the Moonspring, huh?
Clay nodded a few times.
That sounds nice. Sounds interesting. I have no idea where that is.
I'll show you the way there soon, Vixen Star whispered.
What? Oh.
Clay blinked, apparently not having caught what she was saying before processing her sentence.
Oh, sure. Okay. That sounds like a plan.
Then I let Patchson know you're coming, Foxspring meowed. She began to turn to leave, but paused. Also, you should keep an eye out for Finchdapple. Finchdapple? Vixen Star frowned at the mention of the former Sky Clan deputy. Why? What happened? There's too many conflicting statements to know for sure. Foxspring paused, choosing her words carefully. But ultimately, he's been deemed too volatile and dangerous to stay within Sun Clan. So, for the time being, he's been banished. Banished? Clay and Vixen Star exchanged a worried glance.
Why? What'd he do?
But Foxspring just shook her head. I've already said too much. Just be warned.
That should do it.
Clay watched as Tidestorm licked up the herbs he'd set in front of the brown tom.
Let's hope this fixes everything. Thank you, Clay.
Tidestorm finished chewing on one of the valerian roots and swallowed, savoring the taste. There was something about it that reminded him of catnip. He'd once wandered by a patch of the stuff growing outside a two-leg nest and had been so tempted to roll around in it. The effects were oddly both relaxing and invigorating.
You know, I think my throat's feeling better already. Maybe I ought to go hunt.
Oh no, you don't! Vixen Star stepped into the medicine den, fixing her mate with a stern glare that he met sheepishly. You are going to stay in camp and recover until you get your strength back. Tidestorm ducked his head, looking from Vixen Star to Clay, who chuckled.
Yep, you heard her. Might as well make yourself comfortable. Alright, alright.
The brown and white tom rolled his eyes, settling back into his nest.
I guess you win.
Vixen Star purred in satisfaction before turning to face Clay. So, have you given any more thought to the meeting with Patchson?
Yeah, I have.
The gray tom nodded.
It sounds like a good opportunity to chat or something. Catch up on stuff in the other clan, just talk. Do you think one of the community's healers will be there at all?
Vixen Star shrugged. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll want to get involved with any of the StarClan related stuff, but if you do see them, we should offer them some help. I saw one of their cats recently, Albatross, and I barely recognized him, he was so badly injured. Most of the fur on his face was gone.
Albatross!
Tidestorm sat upright in his nest, and even Clay was looking at her with wide, alarmed eyes. Yes? Vixen Star nodded slowly. I don't know what had caused it, but I assume there may have been more cats that were injured. It looked like it happened a while ago, though. Tidestorm let out a heavy breath, sinking back into the moss and fern, and Clay looked away, a thoughtful expression on his face.
Sorry, Tidestorm meowed. It's just, I knew him a while back. He was a very good friend of mine.
You never told me you knew him, said Vixen Star, only the idle flick of her tail giving away her frustration at the news. Thankfully, Tidestorm had the decency to look sheepish about this news.
Sorry, it just never came up.
That's alright, just... I wish you'd told me.
Well, meowed Tidestorm. Next time we run into any cats that I know, I'll let you know. We actually both knew Albatross, meowed Clay. He's a good cat. Of course, if they need help, I'll offer it.
Clay, you made it. Patchson was already waiting by the edge of the water, shivering a little in the cold night air of Leafall.
Of course I did.
Clay couldn't exactly fault the SunClan medicine cat for being cold. Even his own thick pelt did little to prevent the chill from creeping in. What did worry him, however, was the slight wheezing of Patchson as he approached.
Are you alright, though?
I'm fine, Patchson responded. It's just a long trek from the SunClan camp all the way here in the cold.
Are you sure?
Clay looked over the other Tom worriedly.
I mean, if you aren't up to it, maybe we can wait before—
I'm fine, really! Patchson bristled slightly, visibly trying to keep his fur flat. We're already here anyway. And besides, talking to StarClan is more important.
Well, if you're sure, I won't argue.
Privately, Clay did not agree with that sentiment. Spiritual guides or no, he wasn't so sure putting a bunch of dead cats ahead of one's own personal health was the best course of action.
Maybe their guidance for him will be to take care of himself, Clay thought.
Regardless, he stepped up to the water's edge alongside Patchson.
So, what do we do exactly?
Just lap up a few drops of water, and then just let StarClan enter your dreams. Following the younger Tom's lead, Clay did as he was told, and his eyes slipped closed as sleep began to overtake him, and visions began to swirl in his mind. Frost and ice were scattered everywhere, coating the trunk of a tree over here, and the side of a large rock over there. Unlike the chill of Leaf Bear, it didn't seem to be causing any harm. The greenery was still alive and well. The frost was just there. Amidst the forest, a bird flew. Furiously, it beat its wings against the ice in one spot, forcing it to melt away, but more frost began to creep in, freezing in the space behind the bird. Alarmed, the bird flew off, trying again to destroy the frost, but again the ice began to fill the space the bird was trying to occupy. Time and time again, the process repeated, the bird growing more furious and frantic, until finally, it darted into the shelter of some reeds growing by the edge of a river. For a while, the forest remained calm, peaceful. Without the bird beating at it, the ice began to subside on its own just a bit. Then, without warning, the bird flew up into the air, the water from the river rising behind it. Where the bird flew, the water followed, submerging and melting away the ice, but also drowning and choking out the plants of the forest, covering the rocks and flooding the land. Clay watched everything with narrowed eyes. Maybe he didn't quite understand what all of this meant, but he knew a bad omen when he saw one. Albatross rested at the far side of the community's camp, close to where Red kept the supply of herbs and other medicines. He had been very lucky to survive the wolf attack, thanks to the quick interference of Leaf leading several others to fight it off just when it reached Breeze, and Red rushing to Albatross's aid. Thankfully, there hadn't been any death, although Breeze had lost his leg, and while Albatross hadn't been conscious for most of it, he was told there were times when the others had been certain he would not survive. Albatross had always considered himself lucky, though, and clearly, his luck had held out. Sure, his good looks may have been marred by the massive scars the wolf had given him, and he'd lost his right eye, but he'd rather deal with that than his own death. In the aftermath, however, the community had decided to find more cats to recruit, just in case the wolf were to return, to help in case they found themselves lacking enough paws to help around camp. He'd seen a couple of them already, being given a tour of the abandoned two-leg nest the community called home. They'd be looking around with wide, curious eyes, taking everything in. And then their eyes would land on him and they'd do a double take, staring at him, or rather his scars, in horror, and they'd give him a wide berth. Albatross tried to take it in stride, making jokes about being the center of attention or quips about his eye-catching appearance. The other cats would relax a bit at that, but still. He tried not to show it, but the avoidance hurt quite a bit.
Oh my gosh! Albatross?
The Tom looked up to see a young color-point she-cat barreling in his direction.
It's you! Oh my gosh, I missed you! It's me, Sapphire! Do you remember me?
A purr rose in Albatross's throat as Sapphire skidded to a stop in front of him. Of course I recognize you. Spirits, the last time I saw you, you were only a moon or so out of kithood. How's kitty pet life been treating you?
Oh, it has been so good, she meowed. Like, I get so much attention and there's lots of good food, like chicken and maybe some cream if it's a special day or something. And I get lots of toys and cushions and these fake trees. That most of them are pink. You know, I've never seen so much pink except if it was like flowers or stuff. But then like, the cats that live here said that they need help because, oh no, a wolf was attacking us and we don't know what to do and we need help. So it was, oh my gosh, of course I'll help you out. And now I'm here. And you're here as well.
Albatross purred as she told her story. Sapphire's ability to go on for so long without pausing for breath was honestly quite impressive. I see you haven't lost any of your enthusiasm since I saw you last. So, how exactly are you going to be helping out around here?
Oh, well, you know how Clay used to teach me how to heal? Well, I met Red and she's going to teach me even more about healing. And she's a pretty good teacher, you know? She was even telling me a little bit about you.
Oh? Albatross forced himself not to look worried as his mate was brought up. What did she say exactly? Only good things, I hope.
Only the best of things. You know, she was like, oh yeah, I have a mate around here named Albatross, and he's like totally amazing and handsome. I love him so much, more than anything else in the world, and I would die to protect him, and we're gonna have lots of babies together. And it was all so romantic, and she really loves you, you know.
Clearly, Sapphire's story was exaggerated, but Albatross couldn't keep back the purr of laughter that rose up in his throat. You haven't changed one bit, Sapphire. It's good to have you back. Falling back on old patterns, he leaned in close to speak in a slightly hushed tone. You know, I recently saw Tide and Clay again. Sapphire gave an exaggerated gasp.
No, really? Is Tide still super handsome?
Oh, yes. Albatross nodded solemnly. In fact, I'd say he's grown even more handsome than ever, though he goes by Tidestorm these days. Here, let me tell you about them. The cats of the community eyed the calico newcomer curiously. Visitors to the camp were not completely unheard of, although this stranger carried the heavy scent of swamp water and several other cats in their fur. Steel was the first to approach.
Welcome to the community. Please, do not hesitate to make yourself comfortable. What is it that brings you here?
The chubby calico fidgeted as they were addressed.
Oh, well, I'm Koi, and I'm just waiting for the others to catch up. Sorry, I'm just kind of with them for now.
You are supposed to be an escort. A golden she-cat meowed as she stepped confidently into the ruins, closely followed by a spotted russet tom, both of them smelling of the same marsh. Sapphire was quick to notice the tom.
Scorch, it's me! It's Sapphire, hello! Albatross is here too!
Albatross perked his head up as the familiar tom turned to face in their direction, before his eyes widened a fraction in mild horror. Oh, mein Freund, what has happened to you? He breathed, though he took no steps closer to his old friends. The golden she-cat cleared her throat to speak up. I'm sorry for the intrusion. I don't think we've met, but I'm well aware of who the community is. You're Steel, correct? You make it a point to know everything that happens within the valley? The tom in question nodded.
Indeed.
The she-cat dipped her head in acknowledgement. My name is Sunny, she meowed. My mother, Erin, was a rogue from this valley. She lived in the marsh close to the ocean, but she used to venture away sometimes, such as when she met my father. He was a clan cat, Reedjaw, the noble deputy of River Clan. The cats of the community all began to clamor at once, hearing the clans mentioned.
What? Guys,
Everyone be still.
Steel's voice cut through the crowd, getting them to quiet down.
Sunny, you may continue.
Sunny glanced around, gathering herself before continuing. My father was a good cat. I only knew him briefly before he chose to leave the valley, but I am proud to have his blood in my veins. And in honor of him, I and several of the cats in the marsh have decided to come together to form Reed Clan. Several more shouts emerged from the gathered crowd, but Steel again spoke above the din.
I see. I suppose this means you will be Sunny Star from this point on?
At being called Sunny Star, the golden she-cat became flustered and shook her head. Oh no, I'm not even deputy. Scorch here is. At the mention of his name, the russet tom seemed to jolt to attention. Yeah, that would be me. Steel's gaze turned to him.
You are the leader?
No, Nine. I'm not the leader. I am deputy. That's all. Our leader has said that they want their identity to be a surprise at the next gathering. We simply deemed it best to ensure that you were informed of our presence, being in charge of the valley and all. Steel raised an eyebrow dubiously, looking over the three marsh cats.
All in good faith, I would hope.
Of course, Sunny meowed. We want this to work out. We just thought we should get word out while we were about.
I see.
Steel gave them another once-over, before he finally nodded.
In that case, consider Reed Clan acknowledged. Perhaps we will see more of you in the future.
The three Reed Clan cats dipped their heads respectfully. Thank you, meowed Sunny. We'll take our leave now. As the newly announced clan cats turned to leave, Albatross stepped up to Scorch's side. Look, I know it's been a while, and we didn't exactly part under the best circumstances, but I had to ask. Have you seen anyone else? You're asking about Storm specifically, yeah? Scorch met Albatross's eye just for a moment before looking away. She's fine. I can tell her you're here if you want to speak with her. Albatross let out a sigh of relief. I'd appreciate that. Thanks, Scorch. It is no trouble at all, old friend.
Jeez, what is your problem?
The spotted ginger cat hissed at Leaf, pinned beneath her. Leaf, for her part, was looking haggard. The rogue had put up a good fight and left her bleeding. Infuriated by her injuries, the tortoiseshell twisted to claw at the other she-cat.
My problem is you!
She hissed, her claws connecting with the other cat's side. Both she-cats snarled at each other, both ready to attack again, when Steel's voice cut in.
What exactly is going on here, Leaf?
Steel's gaze flickered between the two cats, his eyes narrowing in particular as they met Leaf's.
She was on our turf! I was trying to warn her to keep out! I was just passing through,
The she-cat huffed.
I'm sorry, is that not allowed? It's our territory!
Leaf, how many times do I have to tell you this?
Steel's voice sounded sharp and furious, unlike his normal calm, collected tone.
We do not own the territory. We merely live here and protect those who may need it. That is your duty. You would do well to remember it.
He glared harshly at her, before turning to the rogue.
I sincerely apologize for my subordinate's behavior. I can assure you, if she values her position, it will not happen again.
Yeah, well, at least one of you is reasonable.
The she-cat shook out her fur, wincing a little at the twinge of pain her new injury caused.
So, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go.
Of course.
Steel dipped his head and stepped back, keeping himself between the rogue and Leaf.
You may continue on your way.
With a huff, the ginger she-cat cast one last glare in Leaf's direction and ran off, leaving the enforcer to her leader.
You didn't actually mean what you said, Steel, right?
Leaf's voice was nearly shrill in disbelief as she faced the gray and black Tom.
I mean, you need me! You need me on your council! You can't just get rid of me!
I am not getting rid of you, Steel meowed, but this has gone on long enough. I respect your input, and your enforcers have their place within the community, but assaulting passerby is not your purpose. This is your final warning, Leaf. Otherwise, perhaps there may be another more suited to taking charge of the enforcers.
Red and Dusk sat side by side as they watched the kits playing together, the two queens most intently observing the little Reed clan kit that had stumbled into their camp. Seeing the strange kit had initially thrown them both for a loop, but after speaking to them briefly, they had been able to conclude that no, the kit hadn't actually been brought by one of the strange marsh cats. In fact, the kit, Larva, they said their name was, had wandered off on their own, trying to follow all the adults, and had miraculously survived long enough to stumble into the community's camp on their own. We can't keep them here, Red was saying to Dusk. Their family must be worried sick. Nobody is saying we're keeping them here, Dusk responded. I can bring them home. I know the valley quite well. In your condition? Red gave the Black Queen a dubious look. Your kids could come at any time. No, you have to stay here. I'll take them. But you don't know the valley like I do, Dusk protested. You're going to get lost.
If you don't mind, I'll take them home.
The pair of queens looked up to see Nessa had approached. The lithe black she-cat sat next to them and watched as Larva played with Red's kits.
Honestly, neither of you should go out. It's getting dark and both of you have kids to think of. But I'm used to the dark.
She lifted her head proudly as she spoke, unable to keep a confident purr out of her voice.
I can get Larva home safe and sound. It's just a matter of finding out whether they remember the way they came.